Hey guys, welcome to the Cozy Writing channel. I'm really glad you're here. So, I want to talk about my favorite books that I read in 2022. These aren't necessarily books that came out in 2022. These are just books that I found in 2022 and then read. And some of them are older, and some of them were brand new that I just randomly happened to find. Let's start with Certain Dark Things. This book blew my mind. This book very possibly could be the best book I have read in, Jesus Christ, I don't know. I can't even think of a time frame to describe this. So this book is number one, top of my list. I loved everything about it. I loved the author's way of integrating this entire society of the future and vampires into it and just blending it seamlessly. It was amazing. I can't even I don't have words to describe how much I really enjoyed this book. If you have even a smidge of interest in vampires, you need to pick up this book. Now, it's not a new book. I'm sure everybody has probably already read this book, and I'm just waxing poetic on something you guys already know about. But it really did. It blew my mind about how I loved everything about it. I'm such a fangirl about it. I think it's amazing. I think they did such a great job with the world building and the characters and the plot. And it's just it's the perfect example. A lot of books, I'm like, I need to know more. I want to know what happened to this character again. But Certain Dark Things has this very closed plot. It starts and it ends, and you finish the book and you are just satisfied. It's that was such a good read. I don't need to know more because it was all contained. It was closed up and it was perfect. Okay, next up is a book that I bought completely on a whim. I had gone to Target to get, I don't even remember, I had to get some mundane things, and I was looking for a book for one of my kids. And I came across Lore Olympus at Target on a bookshelf. I mean, where was I that I didn't know about this? But I found it and I'm like, I love Persephone. I'm just gonna buy this. So I bought it, and it's a web comic. You can read it on the web for free, but it's gotten so much popularity that the author and illustrators have combined it into volumes, and I now own volumes 1 through 3. I think I have 4 on pre-order. It took me by storm, and I love the art style, and I really enjoy the modern twist that the author has put on the Persephone and Hades mythology, and I love it. It's my favorite rendition of Persephone and Hades right now, and I highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys mythology and who enjoys artwork. There is some kind of cringy bits with Persephone and Apollo that I wasn't a super fan of. I'm not really sure that they did a good job with it. It felt very contrived almost, but it does set the basis for the beginning of the story, so it is very there in your face, and it could be triggering moments for some people. But if you can get past that, then the rest of it just flows so well, and I really very much enjoy the way the artwork enhances the story and wraps you up in it, and it's a beautiful read. You absolutely should check it out. Let's talk about Murderbot. Does anybody know who Murderbot is? I know at least one of you do. Murderbot is a conception by Martha Wells, and I discovered this, I feel like it's been a couple years now. I was just kind of jonesing for something to read, and I wanted to read something sci-fi, and Amazon kept pushing these Murderbot books at me. And I kept no, that's not really one I want to read. And eventually I just got it on my Kindle and was like, fine, I'll read it. I read it. I loved it. I immediately devoured all the rest of the Murderbot stories I could possibly find. And it's wonderful. It's the story of a machine whose only job was to protect and kill, and the machine is processing emotions and the emotions that the humans around it seem to put on it, and it's trying to figure out where it belongs in the universe. And it makes friends along the way in like unexpected places, and it's just wonderful. It's nice to see humanity through the eyes of something that isn't human, and then watch it grapple with itself and figure out who it is and what it wants. And it's liberating and joyful and really exciting because Martha Wells injects this more adventure-y plot lines usually into it. Sometimes it's like a little bit of a mystery. You're trying to find out who's doing something, but it's not like a murder mystery. It's this web, this complex web of capitalism and AI and humans, and it's really enjoyable to consume. And unfortunately, at some point, I ran out of Murderbot stories, so now I have to wait like once a year for the next one to come out. So the one I read last year is called Fugitive Telemetry. And there is one more coming out. The Amazon listing page say the one that's coming out is 7 out of 7, so I'm a little sad. Does that mean that it's going to be the last one, or it's 7 out of known 7? I'm not sure, but in 2023, there will be a new Murderbot, and that is exciting. I can't wait to read it. Okay, let's talk about the obsession I had over the summer with Naomi Novik. Naomi Novik wrote a series of books called, I think it's like The King's Dragon or something, and I read them way back when. I didn't finish the series, but I did read a good number of them, and they were good. I was really into like high fantasy at the time, and it fit really well with what media I was consuming at the moment. But then I just kind of fell away from it. I got less into dragons and more into like, I don't know, sci-fi or something. And I just moved away from it. And they were decently good, but I didn't really think about them after I stopped reading. So then I think it was in the summer, maybe it was late spring, I stumbled across A Deadly Education. And I didn't know at the time it was by the same author who wrote the Dragon books. I only found that after I finished the book and then was like reading like the acknowledgments and what other work she'd done. I was really surprised to find that she was also that author. A Deadly Education, I've talked about here on the vlog before because I read the last book in this series for one of my monthly reads, and I was really excited about it. And the reason I was really excited about it is because I had randomly stumbled across the first book in the series, A Deadly Education, earlier in the year. I picked it up I was kind of like wandering around, and I knew I wanted to read something. I just didn't know what I wanted to read. So I was just kind of like, I needed something to get my teeth into, and I picked it up. Something about the cover must have drew me in, and I read the blurb, and it sounded interesting. It's basically a twist on Harry Potter, because everything boils back down to Harry Potter because it was such a game changer in the industry. But it's a magical school, but things are so much darker than they would be in Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter kind of grew with its audience. It started out very light, and then it got darker as it went on. This just starts out flat out dark. They take a bunch of kids and they throw them in a school that's trying to kill them, and there's monsters out there trying to kill them too. And there's no instructors, there's no adult in there. It's just these young teenagers trying to figure out life and themselves and magic and not dying. I'm not really a pessimist by nature. I don't think I would call myself a pessimist. But there's something about all the books that come out in this type of genre where it's a school and there's children learning and there's magic involved. It all kind of feels cutesy sometimes, and it all seems like it boils down and doesn't have a whole lot of substance, or at least for me. So A Deadly Education was it was like a breath of fresh air, I guess. I didn't know what to expect going in. I knew from the cover that it wasn't going to be like the other ones, and that was exciting to me. But to go in and find all this gritty reality was just awesome. I loved it. Once I figured out what the book was and what it was doing for me, I read it in like 24 hours, I think. I couldn't put it down. I was taking it with me everywhere. Like everywhere I went, I had that book in my hand and I was reading in like the few little snippets of minutes I had to myself. I loved it that much. Then I immediately went out and bought the second book because lucky me, the second book was already out. I ordered it from Amazon, and then I remember being like at the house, like kind of impatiently like waiting and like, I can't wait that long. So I went and I bought it on the Kindle while the book was being shipped to me. And I read it like, again, probably within 48 hours on the Kindle. And then came the long wait, waiting for the third book to come up because it wasn't out yet. And eventually I did pre-order it and it came and I read it and I loved it, and not as much as I thought I was going to love it. It was the only sore spot for me. I thought I had this idea of where the story was going, and it was so profound and good and concrete in my head that the last book, did not do what I thought it was going to do. Doesn't mean it was a bad series, it just wasn't what I expected. But in any case, I loved them so much, they absolutely deserve to be on this list of my favorite books of 2022.